So now we can add board using the add board button. So we can add a title, for example test board 2, and we can choose a color and click on submit. As you can see, test board 2 was added. So now in this video I want to make the add item button functional. So if we click on add item button, another modal should pop up through which we can add our items. So let's see how we can do that. First thing I'm going to do is copy the add board button. So right click and click on copy and paste it in the components folder, paste. And this one I'm going to rename this, so rename it to add item button. So add item button, like so. So now in the board component I'm going to first import that component. So I'm going to say import, and we're going to import the add item button from add/components /add item button.vue. Let's copy this and edit in our components, Ctrl V. And let's comment this add item button for now. So Ctrl/ to comment it out and use that add item button component, Ctrl V, save. And now if you click on this, we get the model, but this model is used to add boards, but we want to add items, so we have to do some changes here. First I'm going to copy this button here, so Ctrl C. Let's go to our add item button. Instead of these buttons, we want to use the button that we just copied, so Ctrl V. Here we have to use the click event listener, so we're going to say add click, and we're going to say show model to true. Yeah, it is called show model. So let's copy this, Ctrl V, show model equals to true, save, and it says add item now. The title should be add item, and the label A should be, let's say, enter item, and the label B can be enter priority, so enter priority, and the type of input B will be text, save. So now if you click on add item, as you can see it says add item, this says enter item, and this says enter priority. Okay, now let's see what we are doing in the handle submit button. So here is our handle submit. We're using the event bus to emit an event called add board. So instead of emitting add board, we're now going to emit add item. We're also going to pass the data, save. And now in our home page, so here is your home, we're going to also listen for the add item. So we're going to say event bus.on. So event bus.on, and this time we're going to listen for the add item, and we're going to receive the data. So when, for example, we click on this button and click on submit, we want the item to be added in this board. When we click on this and then click submit, the item should be added in this board. So we also need to know the index of our board. So when we're using the board component, we're also going to pass the index as a prop. So we're going to say index, let's call it id, so :id equals to index, save. Now in our board we're going to receive that id as a prop. So here in the prop we're also going to receive id. So id, the type of id will be, let's say, number. So type equals to number, and it will be required, so required equal to true. And we want to pass this id to our add item component as well. So we're going to say board id. So let's use data binding, so :board id equals to the id. So like so, save. So in the add item button we're going to receive the board id as a prop now. So Ctrl C, go to add item button. Here we're going to receive a prop, so we're going to say props. This time let's use an array, and we're going to receive board id as a prop. So here instead of just passing the data, we want to pass the data and our board id. So we're going to use some destructuring. So we're going to say ... data, and we're going to pass the board id. So we're going to say this board id equals to this .board id, save. Okay, it looks like we have an error. Let's see what is that. Okay, here we need to add a comma, save, and now it works. Now let's go to our home page, and in the, let's see, yeah, in the add item, let's console log the data. Let's see what it looks like. So console.log data, save, open up our console. So inspect, let's click on add item. Let's type something here. Let's say test item. Let's say the priority should be low, and click on submit. As you can see, it says input A equals to test item, input B equals to low and board ID equals to 0. If we had another board, let's create test board 2. Choose a priority color, choose a color, submit, and try to add an item in this board. So let's say test item 2. Let's say priority should be medium. Submit, and this time it says test item 2, input B to medium, and board ID is 1. So now we can use this to add the item to our board. So let's see how we can do that. So in the home page where we're listening to the events, here we're going to say this.boards. So we're going to say this.boards, and we're going to target the one that has the ID of data.boardID. So we're going to say data.boardID, and then we're going to add an item to the items array. So we're going to say item.push, and the title will be data.input_A, and then we're going to say priority. So priority equals to data.input_B, or by default it will be low. So save. Okay, now let's try to run it. Let's see if it works now. So let's add an item. So let's say test item 4. Let's say the priority should be high. Click on submit. As you can see, the test item 4 was added to our board. So let's try to create a new board. So let's say test board 2. Let's choose a color. Let's try this color. Click on submit, and let's add an item to our test board 2. So let's say hello world. And let's say the priority should be medium, and click on submit. And as you can see, hello world was added to our test board 2, not in test board 1, and it says priority to medium. Okay, that should be good enough. So in the next video we're going to make this delete button work. So when we click on delete, our board gets deleted, and then we're going to make the delete item button work. So when this button is clicked, the item gets deleted from the board. I'll see you in the next video.